Good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending the LCC conference, and thank you so much for being here today. I am Cassian Rosner-Wren, also known as Nodebotanist, and I am here to talk about interaction and how that can help you and your users. So this topic came up in live streaming, but it can apply to many different situations. So let's talk first about what I mean by interaction. I mean any way that allows your viewers, be it of a live stream or a talk or whatever medium, to interact with the world around them. And the way we're going to do that today is we're going to have this little robot here, which has, when it's plugged in correctly, it'll have little lights all along the side, and we'll get that set up and fixed. And you can add the color that you want to the cue on the lights. So the importance of interaction is especially kind of important in this COVID-19 world. I've been saying a lot that interaction is a commodity, and that's more true now that we don't have the usual day-to-day interactions that we would normally have with other people. We don't have, we don't go into the office every day necessarily. We don't go out nearly as often. We don't get to see our friends in person. So interaction is truly a commodity in these times. And so being able to interact with your favorite media maker via live stream, webinar, however you want to address it, is a great way to enable your viewers to not only engage with you, but engage with your content and learn more. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up this robot, and we're going to talk a little bit more about interaction while we do so. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my terminal. And there we go. So I got SSH, it. So what this is this is a Raspberry Pi on the back, and it's got a Pi Moroni Unicorn Hat HD. And if you're not used to doing hardware, the only hardware setup you have to do is plugging the Pi into the wall, which I'm making sure is nice and stable right now, and plugging the Unicorn Hat into the Pi, which is just as easy as this. So you've got the Pi, you've got the Unicorn Hat, and you just take it and you put it over the GPIOs and just slide it right on there. And so no excessive wiring, no did I flip the wires or anything like that. It has this nice little black plexiglass shield on top that kind of diffuses the lights. So, enter my password here. I'm going to go and I'm going to start up a Python script, and we'll go into what that Python script is here in a moment. But as you can see, the lights are back on. And I've pre-propagated quite a few lights into there. And then I'll start up my Twitch bot. Go into, and this is also all available in a GitHub repository that I will share the URL with here in just a moment. So going here to LCC20 and to bot code. Okay. So we're going to say forever start index.js. Awesome. All right. So what that does is that is a chat bot. Then when I go into my own Twitch channel, thank you for the follows, Yell. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type !color, and then any CSS color I want. So I'm going to add salmon. And you can see it responded with a message, and what it said is R250 G128 B114. And what that does is that adds that color. You can see it right there, right next to my finger. It added that salmon color to the queue. So this is the kind of interaction I'm talking about, is the ability for users to interact with the world around them and the world around the presenter. And this is the kind of thing that I wouldn't just, have. I would also add on top of it. I would code the entire thing on Twitch. I didn't for this one, but I probably will recode it on Twitch. Also, one thing the bot does here is it adds a random color every 30 seconds. And you can see it just randomly added a green color. And you can actually go into the chat live and do this now if you wish. So this will be interactive throughout this entire talk. So if you go into Nodebotanist chat and type in colors, it will add those colors. So yeah, let's go into how the code works, and let's talk a little bit more about how interaction is important with these kinds of presentations. So we'll start with the hardware, which is really not that difficult. It's in Python because the main library for the Unicorn Hat HD is in Python. So what we've got here is we're importing time, JSON, Unicorn Hat ID, and Redis. So I'm using a Redis store on the Raspberry Pi, which was one-line install. It used to be much more difficult, but now it's a one-line install. So I now have a Redis server running on the Pi. And then we have an infinite loop here. And what we do is we get the value color queue from the Redis store. If color queue is none, we create an empty array. That is to prevent JSON parse errors. Otherwise, we JSON loads, which is parsing the color queue. We then set an X and a Y to 0 and an index to 0. And for color and color queue, we set X, Y to R, G, and B of the color. So basically it's pulling out each color object. And X plus 1, index plus equals 1. If X is greater than 15, X equals 0, and Y equals 1. Or Y plus equals 1. And what that does is when it reaches the end of these rows, it moves it over and moves it all the way back up. So it just goes down the stream. So that's the hardware code. So let's take a look at what the bot code is. So writing Twitch bots is remarkably user-friendly, as I found. So the way Twitch chat works in the background is it is an IRC channel that you join, and you can read information that's coming in through the channel, and you can send information back out to the channel. So this is how bots like Hydration Bot, if you're familiar with Twitch bots, work, as they read Twitch IRC messages and then they respond accordingly. So what we've got here is we are pulling in a .env config, and that's so I don't have to put all my secret values into this JS file. We've got TMI.js, which is the Twitch bot library. We've got color, which will allow us to parse whatever CSS color is passed in as a color, as an RGB color, and then Redis to deal with the Redis store that's on the Raspberry Pi. So Twitch IRC is the room that's normally your username. So in this case, the room is Nodebotanist. And then command prefix is an exclamation point. That's what we'll be looking for to know the difference between a regular chat command. So for instance, if I go into my chat room here and I type test, nothing happens. And that's because it's looking for an exclamation point at the beginning of each chat command. So then we've got configuration options, process env Twitch username, and then Twitch IRC password, which is obtained through a little OAuth application that is available on the Twitch docs. A really handy tool right there. And then it sets the channel. So then we create a new TMI client, and a new Redis client. So those connect to Twitch and the Redis database respectively. And then we're saying client.connect. After saying on message, we want to run the message handler, on connected handler, and on disconnected handler. So this is event-based protocol for the Twitch IRC handler. So known commands. What we're doing here is we're programming a map of commands that will respond. So you've got hello, which responds with hi. So let's test that out here. We can say hello. Responds with hi. And then we've got color, which is the one we have been using. What that does is it says the color is all of the parameters joined with a space to lowercase. So if it's multiple words, it'll join them with spaces. And then let light color equal null. So the reason for that is we've got a try catch block here. that will parse the light color, and if it fails, it will stay null. And so down here, it'll say invalid color. So if I go in here and I type color, helps if I can spell, giraffe, which is not a color, it responds with invalid color. So in here, what we've got is we're constructing a result object with R, G, and B for red, green, and blue. And then this client action is responding to the message. So that's how we get color R, light color, a red, green, and blue. And then for db.getColorQ, so we're pulling the color queue object out of the Redis store, parsing it into its JSON, so it's an array of objects, pushing the new color object into the array, and then spitting it back out to the database. So this is the random colors. So we've got Rebecca purple, blue, purple, orange, green, and red, and a random index, which is set to 0. Every 60 seconds, it sets the random index to one of these, and then parses the color out and sends it to the database. So every 60 seconds, it adds a random color. That way, if you want to show it off, but no one's really interacting with you at the time, you can let the random color show up and have that work out. So on Message Handler, what this does is it does a little bit of the grunt work of getting all that together. It looks for it looks for the command prefix, and if it's not, a command prefix, and immediately skips it. And then otherwise, it splits it and looks for command name and known commands, and it console.log some stuff for us if we want to see that information in the on the Pi. So the way this all runs is what I did here was I started up the Python script in the background using the ampersand at the end there. And then I ran forever start index.js, which allows the node code to run in the background. So what I want to do now is we are going to add a catch to the function that will catch when it is above 256, because this is 256 pixels right here. And if it is, it cuts the last, the oldest item off of the queue and goes from there. So let's do that. First, we're going to make sure everything's clean on Git. Okay, nothing to commit, working tree clean. So we'll go into, oh, that is not what I wanted to do. There we go. So we're going to go into our index.py. We actually don't need to add that in here. We're going to actually add it in the JS because that's where we're actually inserting a color. So two things are going to happen here. One is we're going to pull out the insert color logic into a function because we're using it in two different places, and I don't want to edit it in two different places over and over again. And the second thing is we're going to add our ability to catch if there's 256 items in there. So first thing we're going to do is underneath the set interval call, we're going to say async function add color. And we're going to pass the color object. We're actually going to make this a little more descriptive and say add color to db. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to assume this is already a parsed color, and then we're going to db.get color Q, and we actually should parse out this magic string, and we can do that in just a moment as well. And then a function returns an error and a value. And when we get to this point, we will say let color Q equal JSON.parse value. And we're going to say color Q dot push result or color that's passed to us. And then we're going to say if color Q dot length is greater than 256, we'll say color Q equals color Q dot slice. So we're going to slice out that last item. Start at 0, go to 255. And then after we slice and dice our array, we will then say, okay, put it back in the database, the database.set color Q JSON.stringify color Q. All right, so this is how we get that all set up. And so now we have it, a function that will slice out any items that we don't want, any items that are older than 256. So now what we can do is we can go in here and get rid of this and say add color to DB. And then a result. And then up here, where we do this as well, we can say add color to DB result. So we now have this running in two different places. We've also gotten rid of all of the magic strings in the code, so we can get rid of them here. We can say let DB field equal color Q. And then we can replace both of these with DB field. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to test it. The way I've got it working right now is I do this. Is I have, this is running on WSL on Windows, so this is running in Debian. And what we're going to do is we're going to commit this. We're going to add a descriptive commit message, and then we're going to git push to origin main. And then on the bot here, we're going to git pull origin main. And then we're going to forever list. Helps when I can spell. Oh no, I list spelled correctly. So we're going to say forever restart CJZ9. Okay, so that was restarted, and I'll make sure it was restarted by saying forever list one more time. Okay, it's uptime 10 seconds. So now we can go back here and test it again, just in case. Color purple. Responded correctly, and then as you can see on the bot, make sure not to yank the power cord again. That purple dot has shown up. So and now when it fills up to 256, it'll start cutting off from this end, and so that way we will only have the colors. You know what? Actually, no, that won't. That will cut off any new colors to be added. So let's fix that. What we're going to do is we're actually going to slice from 1 to 256. No, we still want 255. No, we do want 256. That's right. Yes, okay. So 1 to 256. That way we slice off the oldest. So save that. And I'm glad I extracted that out because now git status, git add, git commit, fixed slice logic, git push origin main. Okay, and then git pull origin main, and git forever restart CJZ9, and then forever list. Fantastic. So now we fixed it to where it will remove the oldest code. So now that we've done all that, let's talk a little bit more about why this all matters, why interaction creates a more intriguing process. So there's a difference between a user that is just, kind of watching and not needing to interact and not having any way to interact, and then a user that has the ability to interact. And I find it draws out a lot of interaction from folks who would not normally interact. I find it draws out a lot of people who would normally, feel comfortable or not feel comfortable, but normally just decide to stay in the background, to, step forward and not only interact with the bot, but that kind of serves as a good bridge to ask questions, talk to the developer behind the scenes, because it can feel sometimes intimidating, which is weird. We're just developers like everybody else. But it can be a little hard to be approached sometimes. And so I feel like creating that bridge of interaction with the bot really allows the user to kind of go forth and not only interact with the bot, but then interact with you, which can be really, really important. Some tips that I have for creating interaction in a meaningful and safe way. There's a reason I only allow colors and I don't allow scrolling text. For instance, let's say I had this mounted back here. I don't want inappropriate text scrolling across the screen, but I don't mind seeing, there's no inappropriate color. So it's totally fine to see colors scroll by. I've also rate limited it in production so that no one can really draw a design on the screen to prevent anybody writing something inflammatory or derogatory or anything like that. So I find the best way to create interaction in a meaningful, safe way is to use color and not allow text or anything like that, especially if you don't have a sentiment scrubber or a profanity filter. I would highly avoid anything that allows text, but still allowing users to, chime in with either their favorite color or sound out of a pre-picked set of sounds. There are lots of ways that you can allow safe and meaningful interaction with your content without, putting yourself at risk. You should allow interaction whenever possible. I find it creates, whenever it wouldn't be distracting. I find it creates a more open atmosphere, especially for live streaming. And so, that's, as long as it's not distracting to the person who is, trying to give information. So I would save it for when you're used to, when you don't have the urge to look at it, or when you're not so nervous that it would kind of distract you. Those are the times I would allow interaction. As for who can interact, that really depends on the context. If you're live streaming, I really only allow followers and above to interact because, I don't want bad actors to be able to get in there and they're not likely to follow. So it really depends on the context though. So hopefully today we've kind of covered what I mean by interaction, why it's important in content, especially in like today's live stream and very live content heavy, world. And hopefully I've encouraged you to create your own interactions. If you're interested in this code, let me pull up the GitHub repository. So it's available at github.com/nodebotanist/LCC-2020. And thanks so much for listening today. And I hope you have a great rest of the conference and a great rest of your weekend. Thanks so much.